of all, I would like to thank the session chair, Professor Ravindran, and then my friend here, Professor Mallik, and also my friend from Guwahati, and my student also, in one sense, Dr. Ankuran Datta. Ankuran is particularly very active, and Kanchan is also very active. I am not so much active actually in the sphere of writing, but I had participated in few social movements. So today my topic is social movement study in communication area. I would like to present a framework. I do not know whether it would be of very much help for others or not in future, but even then I am trying it as because Professor Padhi forced this topic on me. Then I looked into my experiences and also started studying a lot. My experience with studying good standard newspapers for last 45-50 years have also helped me a lot. For two reasons, we need to, as Professor Ravindran harped as his first point, we need to include, but with lot of sensitivity, an understanding of social movements in communication studies. It is especially very important for a country like India. And when I say very cautiously, I take a leaf from Professor Ravindran. I had visited repeatedly Sri Perumbudur temple of Saint Ramanuja. And I'm actually thrilled listening about Ramanuja again from Professor Ravindran. I'm telling this because Professor Ravindran has rightly stressed one wrong as a hint. Whenever we try to study something, we either go to Habermas, we either go to Sonia Livingstone, we either go to Peter Dahlgren and try to put their perspectives which arose in their own cultural conditions, which is distinctly different from others. Where it differs, if we look into the success quotients of our leaders during the British era and after that, their strength arises out of the Samaj, the society. And the society in India has its own way of evolving, stabilizing, and integrating the reforms from one time to another. So what we require when we include in communication and a study of idea and social movement, it is very important we understood to look into it from a perspective which is our own. I'm lucky in my university, as an object of the university we have that. I'm also lucky my friend Kanchan, where she is working, they are in their theatre and other departments. They reflect the Indian perspectives very much. That is what we require to be respected in the world and to give the world some sort of solution for countries which have same type of social evolution preceding the evolution of the state or going together hand by hand. It's very important. Now, for two reasons, For two reasons we need to look into it. One is, from our communication studies, students will graduate for both the sectors. One is, today normally civil society organizations, they spearhead the social movement, taking any issue. So, they need to understand what sort of communications made social movements earlier successful. Here, we need to look into three levels. The first level is, at one stage, if we look into the social movements where nature and human together, there are many social movements which were at the interface of nature and human. So human was not discarding the nature. That is again coming back in sustainable development era. The second is only human. For 500 years, if we look into many of the social movements, these were either protesting or supporting in one way or other the liberal capitalism, the neoliberal capitalism, or the communist ideologies, but all of them had been more cultural in the Western sense, in the Calvinist sense, than cultural in the Eastern sense. So we need to understand that. If we are not really representing these nuances, we are not able to really offer anything good for communication students of our country, and in turn, the world will not turn towards us for studying communication. So, the third level is now, starting from Arab Spring, the Thailand movement, in India also, the movement regarding corruption, we have seen that now we have come to a phase from anthropogenic to human-machine interaction. And in this phase, only by studying those two phases of social movements, we won't be able to give solutions. So we need to have studies of three levels of social movement at three different, sometimes going parallel to each other. So we need to do that. For whom? From us, from our graduated students, or even teachers, will go for social movement, because we need to go to social movement many times. And then we have to make a to and fro between ideas of the earlier and ideas of today, and create ideas of tomorrow. I give an example. When Ishwar Chandra Vidya, his 200 years of birth anniversary now, when Vidyasagar was taking the Widow Remarriage Act to fruition, he was in movement. He created a social movement. You know, from Bengal, around 30,000 persons under the leadership of Radhakanto Dev, they wrote against it. Who were the people? See, the intellectuals from Maharashtra and some from South India. They are very few in numbers. They supported Vidyasagar's cause. Now, there is certainly a communication component in it. How it traversed such a long distance, how it made a national level impact, a national level feeling of change. And then there was a very, very important point. I belong to Parashar Gotra, and I'm very, very proud about it. Why, you know? Because Vidyasagar took support from Parashar Samhita. to establish that it is not against the Hindu dharma. I am not taking the term religion. Religion is a way of worshipping. So the widow remarriage had nothing to do with the religion. Now, let me come to the next. The governments would increasingly require experts who would be creating policies, communication policies. They will think ahead of only awareness, how to make social movements less violent, more civilized. And what should be those negotiations? And if we look into the Indian tradition, let us make another reading of Argumentative Indian by Amartya Sen. We would find Amartya Sen talks about a very, very interesting point. The very interesting point in India is India never had stopped any small group also from venting its opinion. And in India's literature from the ancient, we find those things are there. Those things are there. So, naturally, when we talk about, when we train our students, we need to make it a point that we are able to give them something which arises from indigenous. Our indigenous has a great reservoir of resources for that. And we reflect it in our study material, in our lecture, so that students are inspired to understand things from within. So for this two-level, two opportunities of job, two opportunities of entrepreneurship, enterprises, we need to give them studies on social movement from Indian perspective and world perspective also. Because I do not know whether my students, yes, some of our students went abroad and they are working there in different NGOs, civil society movements, etc. And you'd be happy to know that some of my seniors in the ashrama of Visva-Bharati, they were in the nuclear disarmament movement, like Shamoli Khastagi. You Google, you would get to her name. We were very close. And she was trained in the school of Visva-Bharati. Now, how we look into it? When we make a social movement study in India, we have to look into the positivist angle. Professor Ravindran said we have looked into it from the positivist angle only. That's very true. Let us look at it from performance angle, from two aspects. One is from mobilization aspect and another from action aspect. The challenge of civil society movement in action aspect is whether the leaders of the social movements are able to contain violence in their rank and file. This is very, very important. A civil society movement cannot be disregarding the civil laws, rules, and conventions, where we are gradually lacking. And once we start disregarding these, what happens? We become illogical, which is not an Indian tradition. We have seen last year, we have seen this year, the illogic prevailing over logic in many cases. So, in the mobilization, we have to look into level of involvement in social issues and then level of politicization of the issue. Because in India and other countries, we now In anything, we think about a law. We give an angle and think about a law. There was anti-corruption law after the movement against corruption. What happened? There was a law after the Nirbhaya case. What happened? Our social movement need to be thinking in that terms also. The level of participation in movement, how it can be increased, but increased with a discipline. That is also a challenge. Here we communication people can really make a contribution. We need to take up these studies in our doctoral. We need to take up these studies more in postdoctoral and bring out books. I give an offer, I edit a series with NDP and Tagore Foundation, where we take up this type of books. We had done recently a historical review of demonetization. This type of books we publish after selection, of course. So we need to start, or this type of writing we can do. There is an International Journal of Peace, Education and Development, of which I am editor-in-chief, ID Pen. There also, we are gradually taking up these issues. Thank you all for offering me the scope to interact with you in online mode. Thank you.